We're here on the roof of the building that perhaps was the place where Jesus shared his last supper with his disciples. That incredible moment where he broke bread, where he spoke and prayed about unity. Incredible times captured, particularly in John's Gospel from chapter 13 to 17. And it begins with this incredible moment after they've eaten together and Jesus gets down and he washes the disciples' feet. And the thing that really strikes me about that moment is right at the start, John reminds us that Jesus fully understood his identity. He knew who he was. He knew he was the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He knew he was God, and yet he was willing to get down and wash the dirty, grubby feet of his disciples. No wonder Peter at first didn't want his Lord to do that. It reminds me of some words that Paul wrote later in Philippians 2 verse 5 to 8, where he talks about that our attitude should be the same as Christ Jesus, who though being in the very nature God, again knowing his identity, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant and becoming obedient even to death on the cross. This whole story in John 13 that took place in the upper room reminds us of the servant God, the God who serves us, the God who knows who he is. He's clear in his identity, but out of that clarity is willing to serve. And in fact, the God who says to Peter, unless you let me serve you, you'll have no part of me. And so as we take a moment to be in this place, we're reminded that we must allow Jesus to serve us, that we haven't got this thing called life all figured out ourselves, that actually unless he serves us with his life and with his love, we're never going to make it. But it also reminds us that if Jesus was willing to serve, knowing who he was, then how much more so should we be willing to serve others? How much is Paul right when he says that our attitude should be the same as Christ? We understand our identity. We are sons and daughters of the living God. But that doesn't give us the right to think we're better than anyone. Absolutely not. We serve like Jesus served. Because in the kingdom, the last is the first, and the greatest is the weakest. And those are the kind of followers that we want to be, serving others like Christ serves us.